Hello, welcome back. This is the episode 9 of our e-commerce app, and today we're building something big. We are finally adding PayPal payments into our application. It's not just the fancy button we added before, but a complete flow from our checkout in our app to PayPal and all the way back to our app once the user have confirmed the payment. So come on, let me show you what we're going to build. So here is the full experience. So we log into our app and we go to our cart. We don't have any item yet. We can now add any product. So we add to cart and we pick one of these suggested. We pick another McFlurry, an ice cream, go to checkout, and now we have some items in our checkout, and our total is like £23.15, which with the VAT and the delivery fee already added up. So we go to checkout. Our card was not implemented, so we go to our PayPal checkout. So once we tap confirm and pay, it takes us to PayPal checkout. As you can see, now we have an email already. We need the password, so we add our password and log in to complete the payment. So now, as you can see, we have the option to pay with credit union or Visa card. So if we use credit union, review order and pay. So our payment went through and our cart is cleared. This is exactly what we're going to implement in this episode. So let's head back to Android Studio. Hello, welcome back. I know we've been waiting for this episode for a very long time. Yeah, work has been very busy, but now we're back. So what we're going to implement in this episode is that we're going to integrate our PayPal checkout here. As we promised, PayPal checkout coming next. So what we're going to do, what the architecture will look like is the app will send the amount, which is this total amount up here, to our backend. Then the backend will create a PayPal order, and the PayPal will return an order ID to us, to our app. Then the app opens PayPal checkout. Then the user approves the payment. Then the payment is redirected back into our app, and then our backend captures the approved order, meaning that the payment has been successful. So this is actually the way to do it from this REST API integration that we have here. For we to move on with that, as you can see from this documentation here, we need to integrate our PayPal, the client ID and our secret. So which we are going to do on the back end so that we don't commit this to GitHub and the whole world can see our client secret, which we are going to use as to initiate this payment. So what we need to do, first of all, if you don't have a PayPal account, a sandbox account, because this is a test experiment, it's not a production app, we're not going live yet. So here you're required to log in, go to the login dashboard. Then if you have account, you log in, a business account, you log in. If you don't have account, you create one. So when you create your account, which I've done before, so I have this business dashboard right here. As you can see, is on the sandbox and not the live part. So once you log in, after you've created your business account, PayPal will create a default credential for you, as you can see, which has the client ID and the secret right here. So now that we have that in our hands, this is what we're going to use to connect the back end and make the API request between our app and the PayPal sandbox backend and Firebase later on. So once we have done that and connected our app and everything on our app is working fine, we can also go to this sandbox account, and there we have, this is the business account. So this is the personal account that you can use to make the buy request or buy something from your app. So we'll get to all that later, but right now if you have created your business account and you have the secret and the client ID, then the next thing now is to go to our app. So now that we have I assume you've completed the setup for your Sandbox account. The next thing to do is now to create our backend server, which we're going to use Firebase Functions. You can use Ktor or Spring, whatever you're using. But since this project is already using Firebase, we'll proceed and use that. And in order to do that, we're going to create the functions file. So, but before we create the functions file, let's get into our project from the terminal first. So cd documents / burgers restaurant app. Okay, so now that we're inside our burgers restaurant app, what we need to do is let's initialize Firebase Functions. Firebase init functions. So now we are going to overwrite. We're not initializing a new code base. So now we're going to install JavaScript. So for speed, let us not use this ESLint yet. So let's say no to that. Then let's install these other dependencies and say yes. So now it's installing other dependencies that we'll need. So if you have a look here, you'll see we have this new functions file. So the Firebase initialization is complete now. So now in our Firebase functions, we have some of this file over index.js. So then in our terminal, let's install some other packages that we'll be needing. So here we say cd functions. So now we're in the functions folder. Let's call npm install Axios Express cause and Firebase admin, then as well Firebase functions. So that Firebase functions have been added. So what I will do now is I'll go to here the functions folder and add the env file. So this .env file, I have some links that we're going to add, which is our secrets and client ID. So we add that here. I've added this is the client ID and the secret. So the next thing is this .js file, index.js file. I will copy that as well, and we will paste that here. So what we have here is all those packages that we've installed, and here we have this little health check to check our server and confirm that our server is healthy before we now move to our app. So here we get all those through this PayPal config, we reach our client ID and the client secret and the base URL. Then we get our access token, which the Firebase admin used to establish that connection. Then also our create order function and our capture order function. Then finally we have our order ID to make sure that the ID is created once the payment is confirmed by the user. Okay, so now that we've added these two, everything we need on that, we can now deploy this function. So let's try and deploy that function. Firebase deploy only functions. So you cannot understand what targets to deploy. No targets in Firebase.json match. Only function. Okay, so let's go back to our burgers restaurant app, which is our project root. Okay, so now say cd. So now let's from here say Firebase deploy. So I found out why this is happening. In this initially, when I did this initially, I think I added lints, which is why it's having this issue. So in our Firebase.json down here, we have this pre-deploy, which is now looking for lint. If you look at that error, it's asking for lint. Yeah, it says missing script lint. So now what we need to do is to remove this pre-deploy entirely, and I believe that will fix that problem. So what we need to do again is to check again and see if we can deploy and see if we'll be successful. So now we have another error. Oh, I spelled this wrong. So Firebase deploy only functions. Okay, it seems that we're making a headway now. It's kind of deploying our functions, and let's wait for that to finish up. Okay, thankfully our deploy succeeded. So now that our deployment is complete, let's run this and see if we can find, so we actually need to go to our burgers restaurant and copy our ID from here, copy this and replace that here. So here we just add health to, because to use check that link. So our API is forbidden and don't have permission to get this. So that means we need to go to our Google console. So in our Google console, we need to select this application and go to our this Cloud Run. Inside the Cloud Run, we're going to select this API, and in the API we go to security. So here we're going to allow public access because it actually was requiring authentication before. So if we allow the attempt action failed, please try again, close. So I don't know why this is not letting me save. I will copy this and troubleshoot that, then come back. Okay, so I've been able to allow the access public. So what I did was that in this YAML, there is a label that was added here, the name with that number that the code was showing previously here in this spec. So we added that name and the code. So with that, it couldn't allow us because it has already been created, the condition. So once you click on edit and you remove that, you delete that and save again, you save and deploy. If you come back here, you'll be able to allow the access in case you're having a similar issue. So now that we've done that, let's relaunch this and see if we can load our health. So it says okay, true message, function backend is alive, which is what our test here says. Function backend is alive. So okay, it's true. So that means our backend is now ready and active. So with that, we can now proceed to the next thing. Now that we have our function URL, so we now connect our Android app with our backend. So how we do that is that we go to our build.gradle file. Let's close this down. Gradle here, no, not here. So here, so you can use the project and view edit and structure. I don't know why this is highlighting these errors here. So what I will do now is let's close this down and reopen it. Here in our Android version file, we will add our build config fields, which is going to be our paper client ID and our paper return URL, then the backend base URL as well. So now here we can say build config field, yeah, this one. So here is going to be a string, and we have, first of all, we have our paper client ID. So our paper client ID, we have / we now add our client ID, which we have somewhere here. So let me copy this and paste that in here. So we add another / and this as well. So let's copy that same one and we paste. So down here we have our return URL that we used to return to our app. So here we have com dot, I think this is what we need here. Copy this and paste that here. So that's what we need for there. So the next one is our payments base URL, like this. Then we copy that our test URL, not this one. So we can copy this. Let's copy that and edit that. So we remove the health here and leave that like that. So let's sync now and see if this error will disappear. Okay, I think we're missing this here and this here. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's try again. Okay, so our build was successful. We have some updates here, but we won't mess with that yet. So with that, we have successfully connected our build config. So this keeps our all these links like centralized so that we can swap them out later in case we're using something else. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is to add the Retrofit API. Okay, so next up we will add our Retrofit payment API, which is going to connect to our server or our backend, whatever you choose to call it. So now we go to our remote folder here and we create another Kotlin file, which is going to be an interface. So let's call this payment API like this. So let's add that to Git. So but before we proceed further, okay, we have added that to Git. So but before we proceed, let's create some of the data classes that we're going to use, like to create our PayPal order request. And now let's say data class, and this is going to be create PayPal order request like this. So this is going to take some parameters, which is going to be our currency code, which is also going to be a string. That's why I don't like using autocomplete. So now we have .amount, and our amount is also going to be a string. Then we have our reference ID, and which is also going to be a nullable string. Okay, so after that we also need our order response, so which is going to be a data class as well. So we call that create PayPal order response, and this is going to be get our order ID. So then we have our capture order request. So capture order request, and this is going to take our order ID as well, which is also going to be order ID, which is also going to be a string. Then we also have our capture PayPal order response as well. So let me copy this. I'm being lazy, I know, but let me copy this. This will be capture order PayPal order response, and this is going to, we don't need this, okay, for now. So our capture order response have a capture order ID, which could be nullable. You can set that as nullable, as null for now. So now in our API, we're going to use a post request, and in this post request we're going to add our PayPal create order like that. Okay, and now we have a suspend function that is going to be create PayPal order like this, and it's going to have return at body, then request body, and now it's going to create PayPal order request. Then this is going to return the create PayPal order response like that. So then still we create another post request, and that is going to be PayPal / capture order, and then we have another suspend function that is going to be capture PayPal order, and here we have our body, and then we have our request body, yes, and this is going to return our capture order response. Okay, so that's our payment API done. So this is going to be capture PayPal order request, which is what we'll call here, capture PayPal order request here. Okay, so that's, I think, is fine now. So that is our payment API done. So we can wrap this API to the view model in the repository, so that the view model doesn't directly know about the retrofit details. So the next thing we need to create is, now for the PayPal SDK side, we'll create a coordinator class. This class wraps PayPal web checkout so that the rest of the app does not have to deal directly with the low-level SDK details. So inside our remote, we're going to create another file So we're going to create another class, Kotlin class, that will call our PayPal web checkout coordinator. So, but before we do that, let's commit the payment API that we've just created. Let's call this PayPal URLs and payment API. We'll deal with all those errors later. So now we've committed that. We can now continue. So here in this class is going to start the checkout and receive the return intent, then finish the browser switch flow from the web back to our app, and the events, and emits events like when it's approved or cancelled or failed. And this is a good separation of concern because it keeps the SDK specific logic isolated. So that means our view model remains focused on business flow, not the SDK plumbing. So what I will do here is, because this requires application context, so we say app. In this coordinator we'll have some parameters. So app context, and we call our local context. Then we call our environment, and we assign that to environment.sandbox. So before we will be able to access this PayPal environment, we need to import some files, add the PayPal files, which we have not added here yet. So we add those files here. Then we need to get some of these ones that we've added to the libs file. Let's add this to our libs file here. So with that, we should be fine. So let's sync our project. Project is not syncing. Okay, we've not added this PayPal. Okay, let's try again. Okay, seems we're building. Okay, that was successful, and all those errors hopefully have disappeared as well. So with that, now we go back to our coordinator and I delete this OS environment. So let's import environment. Yeah, Android PayPal Pay. So that's fine now. So we missed that out earlier, but that's fine now. So let's start with creating a sealed class to collect the event that is going to take place during this process of our payment, because we're reading some data in and out of our app. So we need to handle whatever error or success that we'll encounter. So first of all, we have a data object, which is like started when the process have started, and here we call event. Okay, so then a data class, which is going to be the approved event. So here is going to have a var, because it's going to return a parameter, which is our order ID when it succeeds. So, and this is going to be a string, and also return our event. Okay, then we have the data class for failed. In case the process failed, we were not able to complete the payment. So we'll say message, and it's going to be of type string, and we'll return our event again. Then after that, we also have cancelled. In case the user starts the process and decides to cancel halfway, not complete the payment. So call our event. Let's use data object here because we're not taking any parameter. Okay, so that's fine now. So the last but not the least is another data object, and that's going to be no result was returned. So that means unknown error occurred. Okay, all right, so these are the events that we might encounter during this process of conducting this payment. Okay, so here let's use a shared flow for this UI event so that Compose can collect it safely to expose it to our view models. So here we say private var events is equal to mutable shared flow, and we pass our event. Then in here we can add a 0 replay because we don't want to keep trying. An extra buffer capacity, we set that to like 16. Then also we say on buffer overflow, we pass that to our buffer overflow dot drop oldest. Okay, so now the public event, which is going to be var events, and we pass our shared flow, and we pass our event, then pass our private events like this. So with that, our view model can actually detect the changes that is happening in this checkout coordinator. So let's set our private config, private var config. So our private config is equal to our core config, and we pass our client ID, which we have added to our build.gradle file before. So we say build config dot paper. It's not seeing that yet, and also pass our environment. Why is it not seeing? So we'll remove that. That's not the right config. It's not the right one still. Okay, so let's just ignore this. So when we run our app, this is going to be generated so that we can actually find this from the build.gradle file. So just ignore that for now. That will be generated automatically. So with that said, we can now move on to, let's create our client as well, so that once we start creating the functions down, it will be easier. So var client is equal to paper web checkout client here, and here we'll pass our app context that we've created above, and our config that we've just created, and also our build config dot, still not showing. So paper return URL, that's what it's supposed to be. So let's leave all that like that and continue. So let's create the function to start our checkout. So here in our function, we'll call it start checkout, and in this start checkout we'll have some parameters, which is going to be our activity from our component activity. Then here we have our order ID, and it's going to be a string, and here we have our funding source. So we assign this to our paper web checkout funding source dot paper like this. So then we add the body. So in this body now, so first of all, let's check if our order ID is blank. Without that, we cannot process any payment. Then we can now emit event.failed, and we can pass some comment to say order ID is blank, server didn't create an order. Okay, then we return back, so return. All right, so then first of all, after that we check for our last order ID. So let's create a private variable here to track the last order we started. Okay, so that our capture is deterministic. So here we say we create a var private var last order ID of nullable string, right? So now that we've created that variable, we can now pass and reassign that to our order ID like this. Okay, so now since we have the order ID, we can emit event dot started. So now that our event have started, let's create a var which will now be send our request, and that will reassign to our paper web checkout request. Yeah, this is the one. So under here we pass our order ID equal to order ID. Then here we have our funding source equal to our funding source like that. Okay, so now that we've got that request variable, let's use a when statement and say when var result is equal to client dot start, and here we pass our activity, and we pass our activity here, then pass the request we've just created. Then we can now check and say is paper present auth challenge result the success like this. Then we return, we have, so we can emit that event.approve order ID, and also we can add a log here to check our console in case, or logcat in case there is an issue. And our tag, let's create a global tag that we'll use to log all the events in case there is an issue. So up here, let's add a private var which we'll call tag, and our tag will be burger paper, like that. So in the log, we're going to call tag, and the tag we have start, checkout, and say launched browser for order ID, go to order ID, like that. Okay, let's import log here. Okay, so with that, then is failure, we can add a message. So we say var message is equal to result dot error description, so that we'll know what's happened. So here we can copy this again, add the log. So here is going to be failure, and pass our message. Then we say, and this is going to be log E, so we say result dot error, like that. Okay, then we can emit event dot failed, then pass our message again. Okay, then last order ID after that should be null, so that the user can go back and start fresh. Okay, so now we have created the start checkout. So we need to create another function that will return that will handle the return intent. So outside this function, I believe we create another function that we call handle return intent. So here intent, we can make this nullable. So here we say if intent is equal to null, then return. Okay, so when var result is equal to client dot finish start, then we pass our intent. Okay, then down here we say is PayPal finish start result dot success is going to give us, let's create a var, then the order ID, we assign that to our last order ID, or if there's no other ID, then unknown, which is unlikely. Okay, so here we can add log D again. So this is going to be our tag. Then here is going to be finish start, then we return cancelled. Okay, so here we emit event dot approve. Okay, so here we'll have finish start, here it will be order ID because this is success, order ID equal to order ID. Okay, so this is going to be approved, then here we pass our order ID, like that. So then the last order ID is also going to be assigned null, because at this point the payment was successful, so we're returning back to our app. What I will do is I will copy this, I'm being lazy again, and I will duplicate that. So this is finish start results dot failure, then message result or error description. So finish start call to failure message just yes, so everything else is fine. So lastly, we're going to say PayPal finish start result dot no result, and this is going to give us here not, so we call our log D. Let's copy this one, let's copy these two lines and edit them down here. So here this is going to be no result, and here we have event dot no result, like that. Okay, then lastly let's call else and pass an empty lambda here. Then after that we can now create another private function emit down here. Then here is going to take event, and that event is going to be our event, and down here we're going to say our private events dot try emit, and we pass our events like this. So now we have eliminated all these errors. So here optimize, then our build config is not loaded yet. So yeah, so that's it for now. So now in our view model, we're going to call back all these functions that we've created here. Okay, so the next thing we need to create here is our PayPal interceptor. So in our remote, we're going to the Firebase Auth interceptor, So create a class that we call Firebase Auth interceptor. Since we're using Firebase Functions to make sure that our user is authenticated. Right, so here we can add that. So in this Firebase class, we're going to have a parameter which is our private var auth, and this is going to be our Firebase auth, like this. So this auth is going to inherit from interceptor class from our OkHttp. So here we'll need to implement the intercept. So like this. So now in this intercept, which is going to return a response, we will create a var which is our user is equal to auth dot current user, then var original. So that will, let's call that original request, and that will be assigned to our chain dot request, like this. So first of all, we check and say check if user is equal to null, then let's return chain dot proceed with the original. Let's proceed with the original request. Okay, so now we need to get a token. So say var token is equal to try, and in this try we create a task variable which is equal to our user, because this user who is performing this payment to get the ID token, and we set that to false initially. So then our task dot await, here we say task and we pass 10 timeout in seconds, time units, sorry, then dot token. So then we catch that, and that's going to be our exception, and here we pass null for the exception. So then we say var updated. So our updated request is now going to say if token is inverse is null or blank, that means the token is not null, then the original request dot new builder dot add header, and the header is going to be authorization, and then we call add the bearer token as well. Okay, then we can now call build, else we return the original request because the updated request is not successful. Then at the end of it all, we return chain dot proceed, then we pass our updated request, like this. So that's what our interceptor will look like. Okay, so now our interceptor is done, our PayPal checkout coordinator is also done. So what we do, let's commit them. Okay, so now let's proceed with the next thing. So the next thing, we have created all these clients, all these web clients that we connect our app to the server. So the next thing we need to do is to create a repo that we're going to use to expose that to our view model. So in our domain here, let's add a repository which we will call our payment repo. So it's going to be an interface. So we call this our payment repository, like this. Add that to Git. So this repository is going to have two functions which are going to be suspend functions, create PayPal order, and this is going to take the currency code of type string, then the amount of type string, and then we have our reference ID of type string, okay, which is also nullable. So that's the first function. Then the second function will be our suspend function that will capture PayPal order, and that's going to take only the order ID type string. Okay, so then, and this is going to return result of type string as well. So here, this is going to return our result of type capture PayPal capture order response. Is that what I called it? Since we added PayPal to all of them, let's rename this. So I think that's better. All right, so it's renamed across. So now we know the drill. So the next thing is to create our payment repo implementation. So in our payment repo implementation, which is going to be our part of this package, we're going to have, we'll call that payment repository implementation, like that, and add that up. So now this is going to take a parameter which is going to be our private val payment API, like this. Then this is going to inherit from the payment repository. Okay, and it will force us to implement the members, which we'll do kindly. Here we're going to assign this to run catching. So let's add a log here in case. Let's call this burger payments, like that. So this is going to be create PayPal order, and this is going to be our currency code, then amount, then ref ID. Ref is equal to our reference ID, like that. Okay, because that's what we want to return in the console. So here under that, we're going to say payment API dot create PayPal order, and in this create PayPal order we call our create PayPal order request, and we pass our currency code, which will assign to the currency code. Then we have our amount, and this is going to be our amount. Then our reference ID is equal to our reference ID. So now after that, we call dot order ID, then dot on failure. On failure, we just pass a log again, copy and paste this log here. So here is going to be create order failed, and here we want to return just the message, which is it.message. Then here we can now pass it. So meanwhile, this is log E, because we're talking about error here. Okay, so now we are finished with that function. Then the capture order, we're going to, let's pass that log in case there is any issue. But here we have order ID, and here we say payment API dot capture PayPal order. Then we call our capture PayPal order request, and in that we pass our order ID, like that. So then dot on failure, can copy this log here, copy, pass, then this will be capture PayPal order failed, t.message. Okay, so it seems I'm missing something, so I need to assign this to run catching as well. Okay, so now we have our repo implementation done. Okay, so let's commit them both as well, payment repo and repo implementation. All right, so we have added that to our Git files. Then let's go back and continue once more. So now that we've created our Firebase interceptor, let's see if we can run our app. Default config contains custom config, but the field is disabled. To enable the feature, add the following to your module level Gradle. Okay, Android build features config, and set that to true. Okay, thank you for that information. So under here, we add build config and set that to true and sync that. So once we sync that, let's go back to, let's go back to, that was our checkout coordinator, and see, still complaining about this guy. Yeah, so this is the build config we're looking for, and it's now okay. Okay, I imported the wrong API context. Okay, I imported the wrong context here. Let's see if that will be fixed. Content context, this is the right one, and that error is gone. So now our app built successfully. We don't have any visible error yet. So you know that here we just use dummy text for this address, But remember that initially during our start, our profile actually has an address, right? This is the address. Use dummy data here. So this is the address that our profile has initially. So why don't we pull up this address into this address box for during our checkout or the delivery, since we're charging our customers for delivery. As you can see in our checkout, we are charging them a delivery fee. So let's create that, and now so that we can actually put their real address. So because to do that, now we're going to add some other classes that will help us to achieve that. So let's go to our features, and here in our payments, let's add a delivery formatter, which is going to be an object. Okay, so we call this delivery formatter, and this delivery formatter, inside of it, let's create a data class that we'll call our delivery UI, and this UI is going to take two parameters, which is going to be the address line, which is a string, then we have postcode, which is also a string, right? So with this, we're going to create a function from, we call the customer, and pass our customer, which is nullable, then which is going to inherit from our delivery UI. And also here we say if customer is null, that means maybe it's a guest customer or they don't have an address, it hasn't been updated yet. So we say our delivery UI should return unknown for the address and as well for the postcode. So but usually Firebase will always return an empty string. So let's create that so that we treat it as blank and not missing if the user haven't really updated that. So we say address equal to customer dot address, it's not label, then we trim dot or empty, like that. Let's do the same for our postcode. So we actually have city, not postcode, like that. So here is going to be city, and we'll trim that as well. But in case there is an address, so we say var address line equal to when address dot is not blank, then and city dot is not blank, we should now return the existing address and city. Okay, then address dot is not blank, we should return the address. Then if city dot is not blank, we should also return city, right? Else we should return unknown. Okay, so this is how it's going to format our address line. Then var postcode is equal to customer dot postal code, that's what we called it, dot toString, which is nullable dot string dot take unless it dot is null or blank. So at the end of it all, we are going to return our delivery UI and pass our address line and also postcode. Okay, so let's make this nullable, that's why it's complaining. Okay, so now this is our delivery formatter which we have created here. Then now we're going to create our PayPal checkout view model. So we're moving to the view model side. So now let's add a new package here in case we decide to implement other payment methods. So we call that, let's call that PayPal for now. So before we start adding things up to our payment PayPal package that we've just created, let's quickly go to our cart. In our cart here, let's create our cart delivery view model, just a simple view model that we talk to our cart UI to pull up that customer's address from their profile. So here we'll call this class, so it's going to be called cart delivery view model, right? So in this cart delivery view model, we're going to have a private var which is going to be our customer repository, because that's where we're going to pull this detail from. So in our customer repo, we're going to add this. We inherit from our view model class, right? So down here, let's create our private var delivery is equal to mutable state flow of our request state. So our request state, and here we pass our delivery UI. So now we pass our request state dot loading. So let's import that class. Okay, so right, still fixing that here, but if I remove this again, all right, undo that. Let's continue. So now let's expose that state to our UI called delivery, and this is going to be a state flow of request state, and we pass our delivery UI again. Then we'll assign that to our private delivery. Okay, so then we initialize that with using init block, and we call this inside a view model scope. Then here we say customer repository dot read customer flow dot collect. Here let's call this state. Then here we say when state dot is success, then we'll return our private delivery dot value, and we'll assign that to our request state dot success, and we pass our delivery formatter dot from is our state dot get success data, like that. But in case we encounter an error, the state dot is error, we return delivery dot value and request state dot success, and we pass our delivery formatter dot from and pass null because nothing was returned. Then dot state dot is loading, we return our private delivery dot value equal to request state dot loading, else let's return a unit here. Okay, so that's a simple cat delivery view model that we have right there. So now we can actually commit that with the delivery formatter. So here, let's commit that. So the next thing is to start creating our checkout view model and our PayPal checkout view model as well. So that's the next thing. Let's go and grab a drink, then come back to continue. Hello, welcome back. So before we proceed with our checkout view model, there is something we need to do, and it's very, very important, which is our return URL deep link. Since the PayPal SDK uses intent, so we're going to use a deep link in order to return the URL configured in the SDK through our manifest folder back to our app when the payment have been completed. So, and this needs to align with the custom scheme handling. Like if you look at our build.gradle file, this is the URL that sends our app to the PayPal SDK, while this is the return URL of our app, which is our product name, product ID here, or product namespace, either one. So we wire our main activity to receive that deep link and then hand the intent to PayPal coordinator. So the way we do that is we're going to go to our main activity here, and in our main activity, let's create a global variable private var that we will call PayPal web checkout coordinator. So this is going to call our PayPal checkout coordinator web checkout coordinator class, and then by inject like that. I think I imported the wrong inject. Let me optimize this. So this is going to be coin in. This is not coin inject. Let's import this, and this is the right one. Okay, so like that. So now that we've done that, we go inside our override function. Let's call the PayPal web checkout coordinator dot handle intent, which is the function we created in that interface before, I guess. Here, the class PayPal checkout coordinator. So here we call that handle table intent. So now let's create an override another function which is on new intent, which is the intent that comes back from the PayPal SDK. Override one, let's put override right on new intent. So this one, okay, this is supposed to be this is supposed to be entirely out of this, so that was why it was complaining before. So now we set the intent and now we pass our intent, then also call our PayPal checkout coordinator dot handle return intent and pass our intent like this. So with that we can navigate back through the deep link back to our application. So but then the next thing is for us to also wire that in our manifest folder as well. So in our manifest, we're going to set the launch mode here. We set that to a single task like this. And again, let's close this up and add another intent filter down here. Or we can just copy this, paste it here. Then this is going to be our intent.action. This is going to be view, then Android category dot default, and again we have another category here on the Android. This is going to be browsable like that. So then you can have data, and this is Android. Let's take this and edit that. This is going to be scheme, and this is going to be then our com.normani. Let me copy that so that we don't make mistakes. So that's our return URL like this. Copy that and paste that here like that. Okay, so then we close that off as well. So with this, and we have enabled access to network and internet. So I think with this we are good to go. Okay, so that's our deep link properly wired now. So let's move on to let's close this down, and let's go back now to create our checkout view model. So our checkout view model, in our checkout view model, let's go to our features, go to payment, and here let's add the checkout view model here. So but this is for the delivery address only for this checkout view model. So let me just add this inside this payment package, checkout view model. Yeah, so here we're going to have a checkout UI state to collect that state. So this is going to be a data class that we'll call checkout UI state, and here we have a variable called delivery of our request state type delivery UI. We're gonna assign this to request state.loading. So down here, our checkout view model is going to take our private var customer repository of our repository and inherit from the view model class. So let's import view model. Then down here we create our private var UI state. We assign that to mutable state flow, and we pass our checkout UI state like that. Then our public UI state is going to be our state flow of type checkout UI state, and we assign that to our private checkout state. Let's import state flow. Alright, so now we have exposed our state that our UI will read. So here we create a private function that we'll call observe delivery, and here we call our view model scope, and here we say customer repository dot read customer flow, because we're still reading to get that address, the address and the postcode. So here we call this state. Then down here we say when state dot is success, we should return our state dot update it.copy. Then we pass our delivery equals the request state dot success, then we pass our delivery formatter dot from. So dot from, we pass our state dot get success data, like that. Okay, so everything is fine. We have imported the update. Now the flow update. So now we check for the error state as well. So we say state dot is error, then we'll return, let's add a log to check. So we say char burger checkout, then we say delivery reading failed, and we pass the error message, state dot get error message, like that. Okay, then we can also update our state dot, so it dot copy, we pass the delivery, which will be equal to our request state dot success, then we pass our delivery formatter dot from, and we pass null because nothing was returned. Okay, so then when it's loading, when it's in the loading state dot is loading, we should also return our UI state dot update it dot copy, and we pass our delivery and assign that to our request state dot loading, like that. Then else, if none of these, then we should return an empty unit. We should return an empty unit. Okay, so that's a simple UI checkout view model that we have. So let's now initialize this update and call this observe delivery inside the unit block, so that we can observe every change in state, like that. Okay, so that's fine now. So the next thing is to also create our PayPal checkout view model. Okay, so in our PayPal checkout view model, so when in this checkout view model, we're going to be receiving three things from our PayPal SDK interaction, which is the order ID, the status of the transaction, and also the captured ID when it's returning back. So let's create a data class here for the PayPal payment result, and here we'll have a var called order ID, and it's going to be a string. And here we have the status, and it's also going to be a string, and we have the capture ID, and it's also going to be a nullable string in case the transaction wasn't successful on return. So then we have another data class for our PayPal UI state, So here we're going to have a state which is going to be our request state of type PayPal payment result that we've just created, and assign that to our request state dot loading dot idle. Initially the state will be idle. Okay, then also we have our tools to show the user some information. So this is going to be string, and let's assign that to an empty string for now. Then var, we will need to navigate to cart after this payment has been successful. Navigate to cart so that we can return to our application and do something else, and probably clear our cart so that the user can also start a fresh transaction activity. Okay, so now in our PayPal, we're going to have our private var payment repository that we created before. Payment repository. Okay, so that's the one. And also we add our private var, which is our coordinator. That's the PayPal coordinator, this one down here. So then the next thing is our cart repository, because we're still dealing with the items in our cart. Okay, so these are the three parameters that we'll be needing. So now as usual, let's expose our state and collect the private state first of all. Private var. Let's call this PayPal UI state. I think that's a better name. So equal to mutable state flow, and we call PayPal UI state, and here var UI state flow of type PayPal UI state, then assign that to our private PayPal UI state. Okay, so first of all, PayPal UI state, like that. Okay, so that's uniform now. we can proceed. So we're going to create two functions here, the two major functions, which is our PayPal, so that when the user taps confirm, they can start the PayPal checkout. And once they have completed that, we can capture the transaction. Okay, so let's create that function. So here we say phone start PayPal checkout. Okay, so and here we're going to pass an activity. It's now our main activity. Here we'll have our component activity. Okay, so now after the component activity, we remember our total amount, which is going to be a double. And then let's flesh out this function. So we call our view model scope. Why is it not importing this view model scope lifecycle? It's not giving me the option yet. So okay, PayPal UI state dot update, and here we pass our IT dot copy again, and we pass our state, assign that to request state dot load in initially, then we pass our toast and pass an empty string. Yeah, this is happening because we have not inherited from that view model class yet, so that's why we're having the issue here. So now we need to import launch as well, so that's fine. Always remember that. Okay, so now moving forward, so let's format our amount. So here we create amount and say amount equal to modulo 2f. So we're just going to significant figures. So if we're in production, we can go to big decimal, but for now this is a demo app. So let's say format, and we pass our total amount so that we don't have a big figure. We need to assign that as well. Yeah, like that. Okay, so now that we have formatted the figure, let's create another variable, which is going to be our order ID, and assign that to our payment repository dot create PayPal order. Then down here we're going to pass the currency code here, which is USD. Yeah, a little caveat there. So what happened while I'm using USD for this PayPal implementation is that I ran into several issues trying to use pound. We know that our UI we're using pound and throughout our development, but unfortunately I discovered that PayPal do not allow other currencies, because I created a PayPal pound account in the sandbox, but it was giving me a generic error, which I will show you guys in another video. So but immediately I changed it back to the US and created a US account. This happened and it worked. The error disappeared. So if you have a different experience with this and it works for your currency, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's continue. Our amount is our formatted amount. Then the reference ID is equal to, let's call this burger order. So it's the name of our app. Then let's use a template to assign system dot current milli seconds to get the exact time this transaction happened. Okay, so now dot get or else, let's call this error. So now here we can say our PayPal UI state dot update. Then we can pass our IT dot copy again, and our state here will be assigned to our request state dot error, and we say failed to create PayPal order. Okay, then we can pass our toast and also pass the same, so that our users will see what happened, and we can also see that. So after that we can now return at launch. So here let's also log that in our console, and here we'll call this, let's call this burger PayPal VM. Okay, so we just say create order failed, then we pass our error dot message and also pass the error. Okay, so I don't know why this is not letting me. Why is it complaining? Say create. So it's saying make start PayPal checkout suspend. Start PayPal checkout. Let me undo that. What have I just done? So this error we're having here is because we are actually writing this outside this view model scope. So the coroutine cannot see this, and because this create PayPal order is a suspend function, it cannot be called outside the coroutine scope. So and view model scope, which is part of our coroutine. So we need to cut this out and paste it down here, and as you can see, those errors have disappeared. So that was a very short, very bad oversight right there, but that's good. We keep going. So now once we are able to create this order ID and get that, once we are able to get this order ID, that means the creation of the checkout, the checkout was successfully started. So now what we need to do is to call our coordinator dot start checkout. Okay, so then we'll pass our activity and our order ID like that. Okay, so that's it. That's how we are going to start the PayPal checkout. So now the next function we need down here is our capture PayPal order. So that's going to be a private form capture PayPal order, and here this is going to take our order ID of type string. So in the body we call our view model scope again dot launch. So in the body we call our private PayPal UI state dot update, then we call say it dot copy, then the state is going to be our request state dot loading like that. So then under that we can now create a var. So under here, let's create a var which will be our PayPal response like that. Then we call our payment repository dot capture PayPal order. Then we pass our order ID dot get, or else again here we call this error again, and down here we can actually copy this whole thing up here and put it down here, then it did. So this is burger VM, then capture failed, then message, then this is our PayPal update or copy states dot error. This will be failed to capture PayPal order, then this will be send failed to capture PayPal order, then we return. So now that we have created that variable, the PayPal response, let's create a variable for our result, which is equal to PayPal payment result, and here we pass our order ID and our PayPal response dot status and PayPal response dot captured ID like that. Okay, so that's how we get our results. So var completed, if the order was successfully completed, we say our PayPal response dot status dot equals, then we pass completed and we ignore the case. Okay, so the status is equal to completed. So now let's now check for the error states, another edge case here. So if it's not completed or completed is false, if completed is false, then we should pass our private PayPal UI state dot update it dot copy, then we have our state, and our state is our request state dot error, and we pass payment not completed, and we also payment not completed, then the status is equal to our PayPal response dot status like that. So then we pass a toast, and our toast is going to say payment status and give us the status that was returned. So it's going to be our paper response dot status, like that. Okay, so then we call our return at launch, like that. So but when everything has been finished, we can now clear our state. So let's create a var called clear state equal to cart repository dot clear cart, which we have not created. Okay, so let's go to our cart repository and add that function to clear our cart. So in our cart repository, let's add a new function here, which is our suspend function, so that once we return back after the payment has been successful, we can clear our cart and give them a clean slate, maybe to begin another purchase. Okay, all right, so our cart repository now implementation will also demand some accountability. So here we have to implement that member that we just added. So now our cart repository, our clear cart will be like this. So let's call return try and let's set our catch and move on from there. Our exception as usual, so request state dot error, and this is going to be failed to clear cart, and we return e.message, like that. So in our body, first of all, let's get our UID, and that's going to be equal to Firebase auth dot get instance dot get current user. And this could be nullable UID, or we return request state dot error and pass a simple error message dot error. Pass the error message that user not available. Okay, so then after that we have got our UID. Let's query our database. So let's create a var that will call our cart collection equal to firebase dot firestore dot collection customer dot document UID dot collection card. Okay, so then let's collect the snapshot, called var snapshot is equal to cart collection dot get dot await, like that. So then after that, let's create a batch so that we can delete all the items in one go instead of deleting them one by one. Dot firestore dot batch. Okay, so now we call our snapshots dot document dot for each, and do that for each document snapshot batch dot delete document snapshot dot reference, like that. Okay, so now we call our batch and commit dot await, then our request state dot success, then we pass a unit, like that. So that's how we clear our cart. So we simply query our database, locate the items in the cart, collect a snapshot, get the cart collection, and await, then create a batch. In that batch, we collect each item and delete the batch. So once we delete the batch, we commit and await, then this will return success, showing that all the items have been successfully deleted. Okay, so let's go back. And now that we've cleared our cart, we can now say is request state dot success PayPal UI state dot update it dot copy, and we pass our results here. Then toast, we say payment completed and cart cleared, and navigate to cart. We set that to true because that's want to go back to our cart and see our empty cart. Okay, so now after that we check for error. We say is request state dot error, and we return our private paper UI state dot update it dot copy. Let me go and steal this again. So we can steal this, copy this dot copy and paste that here. Success, we pass result, payment completed, but cart was not cleared. Okay, so but after that, regardless if it works or it doesn't, we should still navigate back to our card. So here, let me just copy all this. I know it looks like I'm being lazy, but yeah, it's fine. Laziness works sometimes. So here, else we still want it to be successful and cart cleared. Okay, all right, so then we have I think we have covered all the necessary states that might arise, all the necessary cases, error and success. Okay, so let's create a helper function down here that will call function consume tools for our UI. So we call our private PayPal UI state.update, and we pass it.copy, and we pass the tools. We return an empty string. Okay, then as well, let's create consume navigate to cart function consume navigate to cart. Okay, and here we pass our private PayPal UI state.update again, it.copy, and here navigate to cart, we set that to false. Okay, so then let's create another function in case to reset everything, and that down here we say private UI state.value, and we'll assign that to our PayPal UI state. Like that. That's our PayPal checkout view model. Yeah, so but now we need to, as usual, initialize all these. Let's do that up here. So let's call init, and in this init block we listen to PayPal SDK events globally, so in case we're going or we're returning back to our app. So view model scope dot launch, here we call our coordinator dot events dot collect, so that we can collect the global event, and down here we say when event, and we return is PayPal coordinator dot event dot started. Let's start from the beginning, and here is going to be our PayPal UI state dot update it.copy, then our toast will say opening PayPal. Okay, so the next one, let me copy this again, copy this, paste it here. This one will be approved update, so the buyer approves the payment on the server side, so we capture that PayPal update. So this will be different. This will be capture PayPal order, then we pass event dot order ID like this. So that's how that one will be. So then the next possible edge case is going to be cancelled, and this is going to be PayPal UI state.update. Let's put this in a new line. So this will be payment cancelled. So let's add a state, which is going to be our request state.idle. Okay, so once the payment is cancelled, we should return to idle. So another top possible state, let's copy this one, is if the payment failed. So failed. So this is going to, if it fails, it's going to be an error. And here we call our event state.message like that. Okay, so and here our toast is going to return event.message, because we need to know what really went down. Okay, so we want to know what went down there. So then the last one is going to be no result. So that means nothing was returned. It's like kind of a blank state. So we pass an empty unit at this point. Okay, so where did this come from? Okay, so I think we are good to go now from this PayPal view model. So it's now time, and I will have created all the required view model, checkout view model, PayPal checkout view models. So now it's time to move on to our UI in order to capture all these events and activities that are going to be happening. So Our first stop is going to be our checkout screen, which is this checkout screen? Checkout screen, yeah. So in our checkout screen, we're going to get our view models, the view models that we have created. Okay, so up here, let's start with the checkout view model. So let's call this var checkout VM like this, and we'll assign that to our coin view model, and we pass our checkout view model like this. Okay, so then our PayPal view model, PayPal VM, assigned out to our coin view model again, and we pass our PayPal checkout view model. So let's take this out like this. Okay, so then after that, then let's start exposing the state. So first of all, we create our var checkout UI state by checkout VM dot UI state dot collect state as lifecycle, collect as state lifecycle with lifecycle like that. Then we do the same for our PayPal UI state as well by PayPal VM dot PayPal UI state dot collect a state with lifecycle. So now that we've done that, we have this. Then also let's get our activity, val activity. We assign that to our local context, local activity dot current, like that. This is local context, not local activity. All right, so we also need to get our toast handling. So our message utils dot show toast. So let's pass our message to be our PayPal state UI state dot toast, like that. Okay, so now let's call our consume toast with a launched effect and pass our PayPal UI state dot toast. Then here we pass, say, if PayPal UI state dot toast dot is not blank, then PayPal VM dot consume toast, like that. Okay, so now in the body of our, in this column, so for our delivery details card, since we have pulled out, we put the customer details, the address and the postcode from the customer repository, which we have in our view model already. Let's now refactor this a little bit. So what we need to do, we call our checkout state, checkout UI state dot delivery dot display result. So on loading, we have our delivery card here. Copy, cut that out, paste that here. This is not going to be this dummy address anymore. We say loading because now we're expecting something. So if in the loading state, it should show loading. Okay, so then on error we will have same, but on error means nothing was returned. So we are going to show our users that the address is unknown, so they can go and edit that, even though we have option to edit it directly during checkout, which I will leave for you to do as an assignment. Okay, so now this, then the next one is on success. So on success means that something was returned, and let's call that delivery like this. So we paste our delivery details card again. So here is going to be delivery dot address line, and here is going to be delivery dot postcode. Yes, yeah. So I think the postcode should be made nullable. So yeah, if you check our postcode is now nullable. Okay, all right, no problems. So I think that's it for now on this aspect. So here on click on click here, on click on this confirm and pay, we are going to change that. So we say if method is equal to payment method dot card. So we want to return the stub, return the stub, which is the pay, just the button and the dummy card details that we've entered, and we say return button. Else we should start our PayPal checkout. So we say PayPal VM dot start PayPal checkout, then activity as component activity, then total amount, like that. Kind of lost. Where am I? I'm in the button section, right? So okay, so I've imported the right activity now. So down here we don't want to show the PayPal placeholder anymore. We want to show something different, which you are going to add. We create a new PayPal section that will give the user some bit of information of what's happening. So here, let's create another composable, and in that composable we call this a private function PayPal section, and here we call the request state dot of type PayPal payment result. Okay, so here we call our state dot display result, and here on idle we want to return our info card. And our info card we call image resources dot icon dot PayPal. PayPal logo. Okay, so the next thing is our title will say PayPal ready. Then the subtitle will say tap confirm and pay to continue, to give them a bit of instruction of what to do next to complete PayPal payment. Okay, so that's it for the on idle state. Then on loading is similar. Let's use our info card again. So let's borrow this, copy this, paste it here. But this is going to say processing. And then here say hang tight. We are talking to PayPal securely. Just a bit of assurance for our users. Okay, then now we move forward to on error. Here we'll have a message, and we paste our info card again, and this is going to be our icon.dog, and we say, then we give them the message so that we can troubleshoot. All right, then finally on success, which is what we always want, but it's not always the case. Things break, things don't work, we'll have to make peace with that. So where we're going to show them the payment, and now we return the result dot status, like that. Okay, so then we say capture result dot capture ID, or we return just that. Okay, so now that we have implemented that, we can now go back here. We can now go back to here and remove the PayPal placeholder, and now call our PayPal section. PayPal section. Then here we pass our PayPal UI state dot states. Okay, so to read whatever state that we are in at that point in time. So we have one more error. So in our delivery details card, where are you? Okay, here we say postcode, or we return unknown. Okay, so with that, we have taken care of that error. I don't think we have any other thing to do here. Have we wired our navigation? Okay, so before we get out of here, let's add our navigate to cart. Let's use this and edit this navigate to cart. Okay, so this navigate to cart, we are going to use a launched effect. And say launched effect, we pass our PayPal UI state dot navigate to cart. Then here we say if PayPal UI state dot navigate to cart, Then we call our paper VM dot consume navigate to cart. Then we call navigate to cart down here. Okay, so let's check the behavior of our button when tap and pay is clicked. Tap confirm and pay. Okay, so that have been set up as well, so we are good to go from here. So after our checkout, I have added in our module, I've added some of our payment repository and payment API, as you can see down here. And also I added the view models that we'll need, and also some of these injected the payment OkHttp and the builder, and also the retrofit builder down here. So you can add that to your project so that the DI they can actually find these modules. So then in our navigation, I've updated our navigation, added our navigate to cart, and here we are navigated to cart. Well, let's run that and see if everything is fine. So I uploaded without errors. So let's go to our cart and click on checkout. So this is a problem. Our app crashes, right? So why is that? So our checkout, so this is kind of generic. So we have to bugger nav graph. So it has to do with our navigation for sure. Then what else are we missing here? Okay, so we need to troubleshoot this, and let's try fixing this with AI and see what the AI will find out for us. Where is that button fixed with AI? We'll try this for the first time and see. Oh, the button has gotten lost. Okay, let's see what AI will say. So it's reading all our packages. Okay, so there is an error here. So here I said payment retrofit, and down here I said payments retrofit. Let's see where you made that change. Okay, this is the error here. So that's a typo. So then down here we have payment retrofit. If that's the error, if we accept it, what happens? It goes to check for it, but unfortunately I've corrected the error, so it won't find it. Sorry about that, AI. So let's run this again and see what happened. Okay, so AI was right. So it was able to spot that error for us quickly. So that is why AI is good. So now we can see that why is this giving us this? There is a problem here in our delivery details. It is giving us some generic text, or is that what the user's postcode looks like? Let's go to profile. Okay, actually it's what we entered here as the user's postcode. All right, that's fine. Let's proceed. Okay, so moment of truth. So let's see if we can make that connection with PayPal. Wow, so we actually successfully logged, like the web has loaded up PayPal. So let's copy. I had PayPal open here before. See, so let's add our email here. All right, let's try this login now. Wow, so our payment is working. We select our Visa card, review order, and pay. So wow, so our payment was completed, but payment not completed. Let's check our log cards. Payment completed, captured UID. Okay, so we have 200. The connection was established, and payment status completed. So payment was completed, but our card was not cleared. Okay, so that's a little bit, that's progress if you ask me. So now let's check. Let's go to our checkout and check something quickly. So where we captured those errors. So our app got to this point. So it was successful for the card Let's check one more time. Okay, so the issue we have now is the transition back to our app. And if we go back to our view model, so finish start, collect the order ID, create paper order, created the ID, made the post request, and got the authorization and the bearer token, collected the order ID, then here return 200. And okay, so in our capture order, let's search for burger paper VM. That one failed, so we couldn't capture it on return. So I think that is couldn't capture the order, but so order fails, but create order was successful. Okay, so now let's try and fix it again and see. Try if see show order. Check out. I missed out some. Let's accept. Did I revert that? So here it says this during the order capture was likely caused by a race condition where the app attempted to capture the paper order immediately after launching the browser before the user had a chance to approve it. Okay, let's try again. Payment status completed. Okay, seems like we don't have more error again. I don't really know if there is an error. So we captured the order. It shows that it captures the order now. So, but let me clear this and do that one more time again so that we know if we have actually taken care of that issue. Okay, all right, starting checkout, yeah, finish start, then paper order. So now that issue is gone. So the next thing is now to process our clear card. Okay, thanks to AI for helping us troubleshoot this one faster again. So now what we need to do is there is an issue with our clear card wiring and probably the navigation. So I'll check that out and get back to you. Okay, so actually there is no issue with our navigation, because if we do this again, you will discover that once we add items to our cart, and now we're in the cart, so this ignore case was omitted because Firebase actually, in fact, let me close this and let's start afresh so that you see why we had that issue earlier. So what happens here is that now we have uninstalled the app, and let's clear our build, clean the project, and if we remove this ignore case like we did before, what will happen is that now that we've removed that, if we run our app, so let's add product again to our cart. Somebody is having an ice cream, maybe add chips to that, and probably add some McFlurry to that as well. So now if we go to checkout, go to PayPal, click checkout, and now if we review our order and check and pay, you see now, so the payment is not completed, but the status is actually completed, which is what Firebase returns after a successful order capture, which is what we have here. Capture response status completed with our capture ID, capture for paper order, every other thing looks clean. So the reason why is that for our app too, if you go to our view model here in our capture PayPal order, so what our app has is completed, and because of that, once it gets to this point and do this check, if this is not completed, which is looking for that complete, which paper actually returned for us here, then we won't reach this when block here where we clear the cart. So that's why this issue is happening. So if you made a mistake, please correct that. So if we stop this our application and add ignore case and set that to true, now even though we have added this in small letter, then when we run the app again, it is going to succeed. Our cards can be successfully cleared, I believe, unless we still are retaining the cache from the last process, but it's supposed to clear. So moment of truth. So you see it cleared. So now our app have ignored the case, so that means invariably it's returning completed. But let's do another crazy thing and see if that will work. Let's remove this ignore case and set this to all caps. We're just trying things out. Okay, so let's run that again and see if the setting it in caps will help us achieve the same result without adding ignore case. So there's so many ways to do things, and we're about to find out if this way works as well. Okay, it works. So that means it's there, but just for safety purposes, just add ignore case and set that to true. So you have to make sure whenever you are working with API or any external source, you need to understand how the data are mapped from that external source so that your app can communicate effectively with that data source. So I think, and I believe at this point we have fulfilled our aim, which is to we have created our PayPal implementation. So what we did in this episode generally is that we successfully built a real PayPal checkout flow into our Android application. So our Sandbox seller, we created a Sandbox business account, which gave us the Sandbox seller and buyer account. And we also that issue of the country which came up, but we were able to sort that. Then also our Firebase backend, which we integrated in our backend with Firebase. So, and we created captured the other endpoint, and we created some retrofit integration, which we injected in our DI, then which now made it possible for us to establish that connection with our PayPal web checkout. So, and now we can navigate back to our cart and clear the cart. All right, and that brings us to the end of this series, because everything that has a beginning absolutely has an end. If you have followed from episode 1 down to this point, you are amazing. You have just built a fully functional e-commerce Android application. So well done. From our authentication to our admin to the checkout and now to our PayPal integration. And the amazing part, that's not beginner stuff anymore. You've passed that stage of beginner level. This is now real world engineering. But this doesn't stop here, because there's a lot you can build on top of what we've already done, like creating the order history, your real-time tracking, notifications, or even backend scaling. So now that we've come to the end of this particular road, we're starting something next, and that's going to be very huge. It's just like building on top of what we've built, taking it a bit step further. We will be building a full REST API using Ktor, and we also implement secure authentication using JWT in this new series. And at the end of all that, we're going to consume this API with a front-end KMP client, and that's going to be on Android and a web client. So in this new series, we're going to move from Firebase to full backend control. If you are serious about being a full software engineer, you don't want to miss this next series coming up. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and also turn on the notification button, and I will see you again in the next series. Bye bye.